Hey YouTube, Kira Twig here, bringing you guys my updated Prophecy Spellbooks deck profile for October 2017. This deck has always been a big favorite of mine, especially with playing and also just collecting to build. So I thought I'd bring you guys an update to the deck. They got new support for this deck in the terms of Spellbook of Knowledge and Code of the Duelist, and this is actually, I think, my fourth time rebuilding this deck, just because I always seem to either trade it to someone who wants it more at the time, or, just for the fact that this deck is a lot of fun to build, just for gathering up all the spellbooks. But without further ado, got the whole deck to go through for you guys now, so let's go ahead and dive right in. Now, the monster lineup for the deck is pretty standard. I want to run the 3 High Priestess of Prophecy, but I am missing one of her. But I find that teching in 1 World of Prophecy helps really well. Just to fill in for one of the power cards, her effect is pretty standard also. You can special summon this card from your hand by revealing 3 different spellbooks from your hand, and you can special summon her that way. And then you can banish 1 spellbook spell card from your hand or graveyard, target 1 card on the field, and destroy that target. So she's a powerhouse all on her own, and she can also be grabbed with Temperance of Prophecy or revived with Spellbook of Life. So you have resources to grab her back to the field after she's been destroyed, which is one thing you definitely have to watch out for. And I like the World of Prophecy tech because you can also special summon her off of Temperance, and you can do the same with World of Prophecy. And when it's special summoned by the effect of a spellcaster type monster or a spellbook spell card, you can target 2 spellbook spell cards in your graveyard, add those targets to your hand. You cannot special summon other monsters during the turn you activate this effect. And when you add cards to your hand by the effect, you can reveal 4 spellbook spell cards with different names from your hand, destroy all other cards on the field. So it's sort of that powerful Judgment Dragon, which all in all, if you don't use her or him, I think it is a him, for the effects, put it on the card. It's just a good powerhouse in total. You can get out with 2900 attack, but you'll definitely get the recycle effects off. And if with Knowledge as the new draw power, you can definitely get off the basically the destruction effect as well. And pretty standard, also 3 Spellbook Magician of Prophecy. This card is your search. I know that a lot of people are using this card as an engine now with Spellbook of Secrets and Knowledge, which makes me hope that none of the cards get hit, just because it would really affect this deck as well on the ban list. But it lets you add, when it's normal or flip face up, 1 Spellbook spell card from your deck to your hand, so pretty simple there. And the one you'll usually go for is Secrets, just because Secrets can grab more stuff and it is deck thinning. And also 3 Temperance of Prophecy. Now I know some people also like to run Justice of Prophecy in between with this card, or even over this card, but I like Temperance just for it's an easy special summon effect, which you can make full use of. During your main phase, if you activate a spellbook spell card previously this turn, you contribute this card to special summon 1 level 5 or higher light or dark spellcaster type monster from your deck. You cannot special summon another level 5 or higher monster during the turn you activate this effect. Like I stated earlier, this card's really good because you can activate Secrets or something before this card for its effect, and you can special summon High Priestess or World depending on what you want to get out for that situation. And lastly, a spellcaster type monster that I run that isn't an actual prophecy monster is Fairy Tale Luna. This card actually helps you keep consistency because she adds a copy of herself, and she also has that bounce effect if your opponent doesn't send a monster with the same name to the graveyard with this card. But the fact that you can add her back, add herself, and she's very powerful on her own, is why I keep her in. And with Spellbook of Power as a potential add-on to her, you can hit over some pretty big monsters with her, and she can even be that go-to card when you want to get those search effects off. And that is it for the monsters. A really low monster count just for the fact that you can easily search these cards, especially with Spellbook of Secrets, which this card is your go-to, which is the card I fear on the next ban list will be hit for. This will be used to cripple the engine for the draw power. If not, they'll definitely hit Knowledge, just because it's being used way too much. But with Spellbook of Secrets, you can grab Spellbook Magician of Prophecy, and vice versa. Prophecy can grab Secrets, and you can just get your searches off very easily with that. And then most of the time you'll go for Spellbook of Knowledge, which with this you can basically set up your graveyard for cards like Spellbook of Fate, or just mill through the deck and get some very important draws as well with this card. All you have to do is send to the graveyard either 1 spellcaster type monster you control or 1 other spellbook card from your hand or face up on your field, except for Spellbook of Knowledge. And if you do draw 2 cards, you can only activate the effect once per turn. But the draw 2, like I said, really helps. It's that plus that having the 2 spellbooks in the graveyard, or the 3 depending on what you send for this card's cost. And 3, Spellbook of Crescent. This card just sets you up for what you might need with a random card. You have to have no spellbook cards in your graveyard, and then your opponent would randomly select one of 3 spellbook cards that you reveal, and then you add the 1 to your hand. Like I said, you have to have no spellbooks in your graveyard, but it's a really good first turn draw that you can use and make use of. And if you can somehow empty your graveyard with cards like Grand Spellbook Tower, or just by banish effects like Fate, you can reuse this card even late game as long as your graveyard is empty. And also 2 Grand Spellbook Tower. Now when I said the most fun part of building this deck was just collecting up all the spellbooks because they're each, just a little treasure that someone might have in their binder. This one was definitely the most hardest for me to find, aside from the fact that I'm still missing 1 High Priestess. Very surprising that no one had this card, but it's your field spell draw power that you'll go for, just for the fact that you can put a spellbook in your graveyard back to the bottom of your deck to draw a card. So you're basically drawing 2 cards with each of your draw phases. It also has a special summon effect that lets you grab a monster back when it is destroyed and sent to the graveyard. All in all, very good. And I'm also running 2 Spellbook of Fate. Now, I've seen some people run 3, but I like the 2 just because you can re-add this card to your hand and whatnot, and also recycle it as well. So you make full use of the banish effect, which is what I go for most of the time with its different effects that you can get off based on how much you banish from your graveyard for the effect. You have to banish 3 Spellbook cards to get the banish, but the banish doesn't target, and it's a very, very important card that can help get rid of an opponent's key play for a lot of different decks. I might bump it up to 3, and if I were to do that, very difficult to see what I would take out. If anything, I might hit maybe even one of the Temperances, cut that down to 2, or maybe one of the Crescents. It's very, very situational. But also 2 Spellbook of the Master. This card just copies a normal spellbook in your graveyard, so all you have to do is reveal a spellbook in your hand and control a spellcaster type monster. If you have those requirements met, you can copy secrets and basically just more shifting through. Like you use secrets to grab master, and then just use master to copy secrets to grab the card you wanted, just for some more thinning of the deck, and then basically you having resources in your graveyard to use. Not just for Spellbook of Fate, but also for cards like High Priestess of Prophecy and her banish effect. And I also run 2 Spellbook of Eternity just to grab back your banished cards. This card, just putting resources back to your hand that you banished. It's just like a full circle recycle that you make use of with this card. And 2 Spellbook of Wisdom. I like the 2 Wisdom. It protects my monsters from especially pesky Mirror Force cards, because whenever I play tested this deck, my biggest problem was going up against people who basically would Drowning Mirror Force my monsters, but this card really helped protect them. It's definitely one of the potential possibilities you might want to take out, just for, like I said, the 3rd Fate, if you did want to run 3. Because it is searchable, and if you can, protect your monster for that 1 key play, it can make or break for the game. And then for the 1-ofs, the 1 Spellbook of Life, just for the monster revival effect you can do with this card, and the 1 Spellbook of Power, since it's searchable. Now, I tried 2, but just so many dead draws with just the 2. You can search this card out and make use of its search effect and power effect. And then the only non-spellbook spell card I run in the deck is 2 Terraforming. This is just for more thinning of the deck to grab Grand Spellbook Tower. If you wanted to take this out, you can try mixing and matching with some other spells. You might even want to take these out for the potential 1 Spellbook of Fate, and maybe another additional spellbook card that you prefer. But other than that, to finish up the trap cards, I run 3 Reckless Greed. This card, just more draw power, and what I like is, yeah, you can't draw normally, but if you have Spellbook Tower on the field, you can actually kind of use that as your backup draw for the turn, so you're not, without complete no draw for your game, and just use that as your additional backup draw. And finally, I run 2 Mirror Force. Now this card can be, these 2 last cards can be anything basically. They can be a bottomless and a warning, they can be a strike and a warning, they can be the Drowning Mirror Forces that I was talking about earlier. It's complete total preference to the person what they want to run. And as for the extra deck, I don't have one set up just because I rarely go into one. I like to go fully on the potential of the deck as its own. But if you wanted to run extra deck cards, you You could run cards like Shining Elf, you could run number 11 Big Eye, you can run a couple Link monsters, but the low monster count, like I said, just makes it kind of difficult since they all also have different levels. There's 2, 7, 4, and 3, so most of the exceeds that you'll make with this deck will rely on, you know, making monsters with the same name, which in my opinion rarely comes up, just for the fact that they'll be taken care of and you'll have to rely on your next monster to come out for your plays. But that is it for the deck profile. I hope you all enjoyed the video, and as always, I'm taking, you know, requests for deck profiles I can do. I always like those requests because they spark my ideas for deck profiles that I could possibly do. Just that one comment and the recommendation as to why you want to see that deck is good enough for me to at least look into the deck and give it a shot. And who knows, it might be that next deck that, you know, people really enjoy, and it all came from just someone recommending it to me. And once again, I hope you all enjoyed the video. Please don't forget to leave a like and subscribe, and until next time, Kira Twig out.